As matriculants breathe a sigh of relief after the release of their final year results, those planning to pursue an undergraduate qualification might find themselves scratching their heads when they see the cost of higher education. In South Africa, higher learning comes with a hefty price tag. At universities in Cape Town and Johannesburg, prospective students should expect to pay between 23,000 Rand and a staggering 85,000 Rand in their first year. Financial advisor and managing director of Emphasis Wealth Advisory, Des Zwile, says besides the overwhelming tuition fees, accommodation costs can be the most overwhelming financial factor.
What mostly we see as financial planners is that a lot of people basically think only about the cost of, or the tuition rather, of the education, and forgetting that there is other associated costs of being in a tertiary education. The first thing that you should be thinking about is the cost of accommodation, because it comes really at a high price. In some cases, could actually even cost more than what the tuition fees are. And that is why we've also seen investors or potential investors alike wants to go into that space.
Zwile says it is not all gloom and doom for students wanting to pursue a university degree, as there are options to finance their education.
Option one is to fund the education from what is available. You fall under, I suppose, a certain threshold where education could be free for you, but where you don't fall within that space and you have to pay for your education, then you probably have to go for student loans. And student loans in different formats, whether it's NSFAS or whether it's going to the bank, or either way that it is, just to fund this education. That's your second option. But also quite important is that people should also remember the cost of borrowing, that they should be able to pay back that borrowing. Whether it's parents doing it, because obviously students might not be in a position to do that because of credit worthiness and so forth.
2 years ago, Statistics South Africa showed that the poverty head count stood at 55.5%. Many of those included in Stats SA's figure will probably not be able to afford a tertiary qualification if not assisted by the National Student Financial Aid Scheme or a bursary fund. Sibanjoba, manager at Imvelo Wealth, says those who can afford to budget should do so before it is too late.
If you don't get yourself into understanding of how much am I spending today, what's coming in and what's going out, and being intentional about how you spend your money, allocating to your children's education, because that's an investment in their future. Also understanding that life is happening right now, right? So you kind of have to have a balance in terms of how are we spending to make sure we're providing for today's cost of education, and taking into account that this child after matric, they're going to need to study and they're going to have more money that they're going to need. So you need to strike a balance in terms of spending today but saving for tomorrow as well.
Even though the cost of higher education is expensive, South Africa still sees thousands of learners who dream of one day entering the gates of a university to pursue an undergraduate degree. For Newsroom Africa on Channel 405, I am Wandiswa Ntengento in Johannesburg.